For about a year, the federal government came this close to forcing airlines to pay you real cash every single time they made you hours late. Not a voucher, money in your pocket. Then, last fall, quietly, with almost no headlines, they killed it. So if you've been waiting on the airline to make things right because your flight sat 3 hours on the ground, stop waiting. That rule is gone. But something else isn't, and it's the part the gate agent will never lead with. When your flight gets canceled or it's delayed so badly you decide you're just not going, the airline still owes you something. Not a credit toward a future trip, not miles, your actual money back in cash on the card you paid with. And the only reason most people walk out of that terminal holding a voucher they'll forget to use, someone slid a screen across the counter, asked one simple question, and they said yes. One word is the whole difference between a credit you'll lose and the cash that was yours the whole time. So what's the word? What are you actually supposed to say? It's one word, and it's almost insultingly simple, a word you've known since you were 4. But it only works if you understand what you're actually turning down, and most people standing at that counter have no clue what's on the table. So picture the counter. It's late. The board flipped to a red delayed an hour ago, flipped again, and now there's a line, and the agent looks as wrung out as you feel. You finally reach the front, and they don't say you're owed a refund. Why would they? They turn that little screen toward you, the one on the swivel arm, and on it is a friendly number, a travel credit, sometimes a bonus stacked on top like they're doing you a kindness. Here's what I can offer you for the trouble. Green button. You're exhausted, so you tap it. That tap is the whole game. Because the instant your finger hits that button, you've done the one thing the law actually lets the airline use against you. You said yes to the voucher. And once you choose the credit, and you do have to choose it, that's the real standard, the cash you were quietly sitting on disappears. Almost nobody at that counter knows what just slipped through their fingers. There's a federal rule, not a state thing, not a depends where you live thing. Air travel is one of the few corners of American life where it's the same in all 50 states, because Washington took that whole subject for itself a long time ago. Your state legislature couldn't write its own airline refund law if it tried. And that rule, in full force since the end of October 2024, says something that sounds almost too good to be real. When an airline cancels your flight or delays it past a certain line, 3 hours late inside the country, 6 if you're crossing an ocean, and you decide you're not flying, they owe you your money. Full ticket price, same form you paid. Card if you used a card, cash if you used cash. Not a credit, not good toward future travel, just your money. And here's where I split off from about half the travel channels on this site, and from a lot of confident advice floating around out there. You've heard somebody say it, loud, sure of themselves, that the airline has to pay you when they delay you. That when you land 3 hours late, there's a check coming for the trouble. I have to be straight with you, because believing the wrong thing here costs people real cash. That is mostly not true, not in this country. There was a rule that would have done exactly that, and what happened to it is its own little silent scandal, which we'll get to. But as the law actually sits today, if you grit your teeth and take the delayed flight, land late, and just go home, they owe you nothing, not a dollar. The refund lives in one situation only, when you walk away. That flips the whole thing around. The power was never in being delayed. It's in saying no to the flight. And the airline knows that difference even when you don't, which is the entire reason the screen swivels towards you with a voucher on it instead of a sentence that starts with the words, "You are entitled." So you're standing there. Say the flight ran you $460 round trip, one of those Tuesday fares. The agent offers a $500 credit. Feels like a win, extra $40. But that credit's chained to one airline. It carries an expiration date. By law, the voucher has to be good for at least 5 years, which sounds generous right up until you count how many of these things quietly die unused in somebody's email. And you can't spend it on a different airline that's actually leaving tonight. Cash can. Your $460 back on the card can turn into a seat on whoever's pushing back from the gate in 40 minutes. And let me say that a different way, because 5 years makes people relax. The clock was never the real problem. The problem is that a voucher only has value if your life bends back towards that one airline before time runs out. Money has value no matter where your life goes next. When you do say no, when the cash is owed, they don't get to take their sweet time about it either. Paid by credit card, the refund's supposed to land in 7 business days. Not soon, 7. Paid another way, 20 calendar days, and it's supposed to be automatic. They're not allowed to make you dig through a website and beg for it the way they used to. Supposed to. That's the rule on paper. Clean, simple, the sort of thing you'd assume just happens. But there's a wide canyon between what you're owed and what shows up on your card. And that canyon is where this turns expensive, where people lose not $40, but the whole ticket, sometimes a whole family's worth of tickets, and never find out a rule was even broken. Because the trap isn't only that tired tap at the counter, it's what they're allowed to do after. I had to sit with this part of the rule for a minute because the first time it clicked, I genuinely thought I was reading it wrong. Here's what the airline is allowed to do. They're allowed to offer. They can swing that screen toward you all night long with the voucher on it. What they're not allowed to do is hand you the credit and call it settled when you never agreed. The cash refund is the floor. The voucher is only legal if you reach down and pick it instead. So the whole machine, the swivel screen, the bonus $40, the worn out agent, the line breathing behind you, none of that is them breaking the rule. That's them working the 1 inch of room the rule leaves open, the inch where you say yes without knowing yes had a cost. So watch what that does to two people in the exact same mess. Same canceled flight, same airport, same miserable Tuesday, same $460 ticket sitting in both their accounts. Person 1 gets to the counter, sees the credit, feels the small relief of a decision made, taps the green button, goes home with a number in an app. Person 2 gets to the same counter, hears the same offer, and says the word, "No, I don't want the credit. I want the refund to my card." 5 years later, person 1's voucher is a ghost. It expired in an inbox under 900 unread emails. Person 2 had their $460 back in a week and spent it on groceries they don't even remember. Same delay, same rights. One of them just knew the offer was an offer. That's the part that gets me. Nobody lied to person 1. The number on the screen was real. The bonus was real. They just didn't know there was a different sentence they were allowed to say. And quick thing, then I'll come back. This is also why I roll my eyes a little when people compare us to Europe. Over there, they've actually got the thing Americans think we have, a real delay payout law. Hundreds of euros sometimes just for landing late. EU 261 it's called, though the name doesn't matter. Different planet legally. We flirted with our own version. I'll get to how that ended because it's the most frustrating beat in this whole story. Anyway, back to your card, because saying the word at the counter is only round 1. Round 2 is the wait, the 7 business days that turn into we're processing it, the 20 calendar days where nothing lands and the chat agent keeps saying, please allow additional time. This is where the rule and your life stop matching up, because the law says automatic and prompt, and the tired human being who got their refund approved in writing still ends up 3 weeks later staring at a cart statement with no credit on it, wondering if they imagined the whole thing. You didn't imagine it. The clock is real. 7 days, card. 20 otherwise. If it blows past that, that's not you being impatient, that's the airline out of bounds. Now, I want to be fair, because overselling this helps nobody. The refund right doesn't cover everything that ruined your night. It covers the ticket, the fare. It does not on its own hand you back the airport hotel you booked at midnight, or the dinner you bought waiting, or the rental car clock that kept running. People hear the airline owes me and stretch it to mean every dollar the delay cost them, and then they're furious when that's not what arrives. The ticket comes back. The collateral damage mostly doesn't, not as a legal right. Some airlines, on a delay that's genuinely their fault, their own engine trouble, their own crew the time out, will throw in a meal or cover a hotel. But notice that's the airline's own promise, posted in their own customer service plan, not the federal floor we've been talking about. It's a courtesy you can ask for. It's not a refund you're owed. There's one more bag fee rankle worth 30 seconds because it's free money people leave behind. If you paid to check a bag and that bag doesn't show up in a reasonable window, roughly 12 hours on a domestic flight, you're owed that checked bag fee back too. You just have to file the little mishandled baggage report, the form nobody at the carousel tells you exists. Small thing, real thing. But the headline is still the ticket and the word and the wait. So now you know the shape of it. You know the cash beats the voucher, you know no is the whole spell, and you know the 7-day clock is supposed to be ticking the second you say it, which leaves the part nobody walks you through, what you actually do. At the counter, on the phone the next morning, 3 weeks later when the card's still empty and you're starting to feel like maybe you got played. Because knowing you're owed it and actually prying it loose are two very different nights. So here's roughly how this tends to go for people who get their money instead of a souvenir credit.
set as the general shape of it because your night, your airline, your fare, that's yours, and I don't know the specifics of it. It starts before the screen ever swivels. The move is just to decide, in your own head, on the walk up to that counter, that you are not tapping anything until you've heard the word refund come out of someone's mouth. That's it. When the credit comes up, and it will with its friendly little bonus, the sentence most people who keep their cash end up using is some plain version of, "I don't want the travel credit, I want a refund to my original payment." Say it kind. The agent at 11 at night didn't write this rule and didn't kill the other one, but say it. And then, this is the part people skip, get it in writing, the email confirmation, the chat transcript, a screenshot of the app, because 3 weeks from now, they told me at the counter is worth nothing, and a screenshot is worth everything. The friction here is real, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't. The line's long, the agent's offering you the voucher because that's the path of least resistance for both of you, and there's a very human pull to just take the easy thing and go to bed. Saying no to a tired person while tired people wait behind you takes a little spine. That's the actual obstacle, not the law. The law's on your side. It's the social weight of the moment that gets people to tap green. Then comes the morning, and the waiting, and the part where it goes quiet. If a week goes by on a card and nothing's landed, 20 days if you paid some other way, the next thing people generally do is stop talking to the late-night phone agent who keeps saying, "Please allow more time," and put it in writing to the airline directly. Short, unfussy. The flight, the date, the confirmation number, the fact that you declined the alternatives and asked for a refund, the date you asked. You're not ranting, you're building a paper trail. And the quiet leverage in that email is that you know the clock exists and they know you know. And when the airline still stonewalls, and sometimes they will, politely, endlessly, there's a government office whose entire job is this. The Department of Transportation takes complaints from passengers about exactly this kind of thing, right on their site. It is not a fast machine. Filing a federal complaint is not the same as small claims. It doesn't get you a check next Tuesday, and I won't oversell what it does. But it's free, it's real, and an airline that ignores you will sometimes move the moment a regulator's name is on the page. People underestimate how much a complaint to the right office changes the tone. Here's the one place I'll plant a flag against the usual advice. Everybody says, be patient, give them time, these things take a while. And sure, for a few days. But I think the bigger mistake, the one I watch people make over and over, is being too patient, letting the 7 days bleed into 7 weeks because confronting it feels like a hassle. The voucher people and the silent wait people are losing money the same way, by being polite past the point the rule asks them to be. The ones who get paid are a little bit of a pain about it, early in writing. Squeaky, calm, documented. That's the whole personality of a person who gets their refund. And one honest line, the kind I'd say to my own dad if he called me from a terminal. If this is a vacation fare, a few $100, a couple tickets, everything I just walked through, you can do yourself. It's a paper trail problem, not a lawyer problem. But if it's real money, a family of 5, an international thing on sideways, thousands of dollars, and the airline's flat out refusing in a way that smells like more than one ticket lost, that's the point where a 15-minute video stops being enough. And the person who knows the law in your state earns their fee. Knowing the difference between the two is half of being an adult about this stuff. The other half is just not letting it slide. And that's the part that has nothing to do with airlines. Because there's a version of this where you do everything right at the counter. You say the word, you get the email, and then the refund doesn't come, and life gets loud, and the screenshot sits in your phone in a folder you don't open. The kid's sick, work's a mess, and the $460 quietly becomes a thing you meant to chase and didn't. The airline is in a low-key way betting on exactly that, on your week being too busy. They're not really counting on the voucher fooling you. They're counting on your life being busy enough that you let it go. So the whole thing, 3 hours of delay and the rule most people never get told about, it comes down to something smaller than the law. It comes down to whether the screenshot in your phone turns into a sentence you actually send. I keep coming back to that swivel screen, the green button, the worn-out agent, the bonus $40, the line breathing behind you, a whole federal right, real money that's already yours, and the only thing standing between you and it is one tired tap and one word you forgot you were allowed to say. I don't know why nobody tells you the word before you're standing there needing it.